So welcome back, one of my last episodes of my Vento Aureo analysis. In this one I'll be analysing volume 16, The Requiem Plays Quietly. At a certain point there's the description of Leone Abbacchio, who's 21. They talk about his first name is Leone. Leone is lion. Lion is usually associated with the police, so it's an interesting name choice, I guess. So going by still designs, Requiem, Silver Chariot Requiem, has an interesting design which has like different types of origin. One of them is Captain Spaventa, which is also kind of what Silver Chariot represents, like a sword and stuff. I don't know, Requiem has like a design that looks like something I know, but by talking about Requiem and his ability, his whole thing is like, as the beginning with Black Sabbath, his whole deal is again with shadows, and it looks like the Kiriko painting again. So that was all the things I found in volume 16 that Requiem plays quietly. I'll be covering now the 17th volume. In this one, which is the last one, I'll be starting off by looking at the cover. In the cover, there's a lot going on with wild roses, which are called Rosa Canina in Italian also. It symbolizes quite a few things: beauty and pain, as a flower, beauty of a flower, and pain from the thorns. These thorns were the plant that was used to make the crown of Jesus Christ. So it was used during the Passion of Christ, which in Italian is called La Passione di Cristo, and so that's where passione comes from in this case. So this wild rose allegory kind of represents like the bittersweet ending we're getting from that lot of characters dying off, like the pain and beauty of it all. And it's also a very medicinal fruit, so I should advise you to try out. The thing that Giorno did with the ants, that throws ants in King Crimson's hands, is kind of a reference to the film made by Dali, where he talks about his nightmare he had with ants coming out of his hands. Later on, we see Bucciolati ascending to heaven, the place where this last part is based in, and where we see now, it's Castel Sant'Angelo. So this will sound a bit weird, but I'll be skipping like the end of the fight and go directly to like the aftermath of the thing. The scene I'm showing you now is like a reprisal of like a Godfather scene. It's just that again. And on this character bio from Bruno Bucciolati, his favorite story is Il Postino. The food, favorite food things, I will advise you to try them on, because you might find to see how much you like them as your favorite character. So this character bio of Trish now, she talks about her favorite actor as there's Marcello Mastroianni. He's an actor that did 8.5 and other things like that. The thing I didn't touch on is the antagonist of the last portion of the story, this sort of aftermath, beginning, is they're fighting the unfinished work of Michelangelo, and they reference The Dying Slave, which has the pose that Mista does earlier on in the series. So it's kind of connecting the dots here. And this guy has rose vines, the Jesus vines around him. He's speaking about fate and how all this was predetermined. Yeah, and how they're even they're trying to go against fate, bringing bad stuff. And one of the last things I'll be covering, covering through the volume, is the favorite story of Giovanna, which is Les Miserables, which kind of reflect on themes which are present very heavily in Vento Aureo. So now I'll be covering some extra things, like Diavolo. The thing about Diavolo and the way he ended is a reference to what his character is all about. He is a man that wants to cut all ties to his past and lose all identity. He wants to be no one, not known, just a shadow of himself. And that's why his stand has not only one but two masks, and has double personality to hide his identity, to hide his ideology, hide everything. The thing is he is heavily based on Il fu Mattia Pascal, which is a book from Pirandello, same guy, which in his books he talked about identity and how we are worked by identity, and how the other people's consideration of identity work with us. In the story of this book, there's this man called Mattia Pascal that through an incident is considered dead and doesn't try to make it right, so he is considered dead and no longer exists. So he's freed by his like mediocre life that he had. Going on with the story, he understands that by living outside of society, he isn't like free from the limits of society. He is completely ignored by them. He cannot live in society. He does not have anything about him, and that's kind of an idea. I just rambling at this point, but I didn't prepare this. But also, the thing about the power of Diavolo is kind of related to how media coverage try to cover up his like whole thing, his whole identity thing. So his power works really well explained by a timeline, like in the video editor. So he just takes out a portion that he does not want to be represented in, and that's it. That's the whole ability. About the Pirandello thing, I was saying about the Ciao la scopo la luna with Ziscarda and all that. The story of Ciao la scopo la luna is about this little boy that works in a mine in Sicily. Since his father died at night, he has been scared of the moon for so much. He has never seen the moon. And one night he is like trapped and has to escape the mine, and he sees the moon for the first time and finds it as the most beautiful thing he ever seen. And that is kind of like referenced when Kaz, from part 2, sees the sun for the first time. He says nearly exactly the same thing.
美しい、なんという輝き、今まで見た何よりも素晴らしい、あの太陽をついに克服したぞ。
And it's nice. It's a nice touch. And also to reconnect to the main plot points from Vento Aureo, the Pillar Men, the one, are based off some sculptures from Michelangelo, which have like this non-finished thing about it, inside and outside of the wall. When a sculpture is not finished, when the story cannot be progressed fully, there's a sort of like mystic thing about it, because you can imagine how it's almost there. It's like trapped. It's like it has a very poetic meaning behind it. It's like really interesting. Like it makes you wonder, it makes you think. And that's one of the things about part 4 and the guy that like, it's obviously Josuke. That the thing here in this part is that a lot of the depths have them not having a resolution for a thing they wanted, and in a way it's kind of represents the whole idea behind Vento Aureo, like this golden wind that brings fortune but moves a long time. I was making that out on the spot, so a lot of that is just what. So I hope that this new reading I did of some of the references gave you a new perspective on powers, on characters, and the stuff that happens in Vento Aureo. And yeah, I'll maybe doing other things like these in the future if you want. I hope you enjoyed my series. I'll hope to see you again maybe another time on this channel. And yeah, that's it. Bye.